In this video, I want to take a quick pause on the luxury content for a second and talk about something tangentially related: money. Hello and welcome to A Briefcase of Luxury, a place to discuss all things related to life, learning, and luxury, but today let's focus more on the life and learning stuff. I wanted to share a bit about my career from a salary/personal finance perspective. I mean, it's tangentially related to luxury shopping, right? Because trust me, as much as I love to watch luxury content in the form of hauls and unboxings and collection videos, I guess there's just a part of me that's super nosy, right? I want to know how YouTubers are able to afford this lifestyle, because as much as I want to see your collection, I also want to know the process of how you were able to build your collection, how much wealth it would take to enjoy the different levels of luxury consumption that we see here on YouTube, while still being financially responsible. I want to know what 6 Birkins a year type money or money strategy looks like, you know? And sometimes I'm more curious about that than your actual bags. So I love it when YouTubers not just talk about the what of their collection, but the how. I love it when they talk about how they were able to build their collections. I find it so insightful and inspiring. And I love it when they're open and honest about it, whether their funds come from their careers, their spouses, selling other bits of their collection, even from debt for those who are extremely honest and transparent. I love learning about all of it. Now, that being said, I'm not just sitting around being envious about other people. I'm extremely grateful and thankful for everything I currently have. To be completely honest, my husband and I are in a really comfortable financial situation at the moment, more comfort than we have ever experienced in the past. And I know they say money doesn't buy happiness, and I do 100% believe that. I'm not any happier now than I was before because my happiness doesn't come from my material wealth. But I'd be lying if I said this money didn't provide an added level of comfort and security. My husband and I both have steady careers in industries that are still considered somewhat stable. We make relatively the same income. My take home might be a smidge more depending on our bonuses and extra projects that we take on. And we have some level of job security. For the moment, at least, right? The future is unpredictable, but we do have an emergency fund built up if something was to happen, and we would be okay for a while as we figured out what our next steps should be. But it wasn't always like that. We didn't always have this cushion, and we definitely used to live paycheck to paycheck. We had a time when we were broke, when we had multiple roommates before we got married in a small rundown apartment. We worked minimum wage jobs in and out of school and struggled to make ends meet. We both had beat up cars that we couldn't trust to get us from point A to point B. And neither my husband or I are born into wealth. When we were in college, he worked construction. I was a server at a restaurant. Heck, we often had multiple jobs at the same time. So when I say we've been broke, we really have. Broke as in not knowing if my check would clear when my car broke down and I had to take it to the shop. Broke as in choosing not to go out with friends because I couldn't even afford the cheapest thing on the menu. Broke as in not being able to afford Wi-Fi at home, sleeping on an air mattress instead of a proper bed, having lawn chairs in the living room instead of a sofa, a foldable card table instead of a dining table. So yes, I know what it feels like to be broke and financially hurting. But at the same time, I always knew it wasn't going to be forever. And why? Because I was going to make sure that it wasn't going to be forever. I made sure to avoid that victimhood mentality, that the system was what was keeping me down, that it was unfair that I was paid pennies compared to my bosses, who in my opinion just sat around and did nothing. Unfair that I was busting my butt for jobs that couldn't even make ends meet. Instead, in my mind, it was always about knowing and understanding how the system worked and beating it. Because while I can't control what's going on around me, I can control myself. I can control my spending, my income, my attitude, and my mindset. So I want to talk about the 5 things my husband and I did to get from minimum wage jobs, barely making ends meet, to let's just say being past the top 5 percentile of US median household incomes today. The first thing we did was to make a decision on what we wanted our life to look like, realistically. I mean, have any of you ever played the what if game? Especially the what if we won the lottery game? Yeah, we did that a lot when we were eating day-old chicken breasts out of cottage cheese plastic containers because we were too broke to buy Tupperware. And it's a fun game, right, to daydream about all that you can buy and do with lottery-type money. what type of lifestyle lottery money can afford. The problem is, the likelihood of winning the lottery is pretty slim, and the lifestyle we were fantasizing about was just that. It was a fantasy. Now, I'm not telling you to dream small, that's not it at all, but we did make a decision on what we wanted our future life to look like realistically in terms of work, lifestyle, and income. Some people prioritize wealth and chasing more and more wealth. Some people want to be the next Bill Gates, right? And have Bill Gates level money, and they will give up sleep, family, health to focus on work in order to reach that level of wealth. And if that's what they've decided is important to them, then great. At least you've made a decision, you've set a goal. For us, it was never about being insanely wealthy. We knew we didn't need Bill Gates money. We didn't need a mansion in California. We didn't need a Lamborghini. We did want to be comfortable, and we did want a house with some space and land. We did want nice, fast cars, but we were okay with them not being Lamborghini level nice and fast, you know? And we wanted a life where work wasn't the end-all and be-all of everything, where it consumed our every waking moment. And once we made that decision of what we were aiming for, we could realistically plan the how. How can we make this happen? But at the end of the day, we had a goal, one that was realistic, and now all we needed was the plan. So next, we did our due diligence. We did our homework, our research on what type of career is this achievable and what skills or qualifications we would need to thrive in that career. We switched majors. I think my husband switched multiple times from finance to accounting to management, etc. I switched once, and I do plan on making a separate video about that because that drastically changed the trajectory of my career. But I switched only when I sat down to look at the realistic career salary numbers for the line of work I thought I would be passionate about. If I had done my due diligence in advance, I may not have picked that area of study. So I made the switch to business. And while studying business, I always thought that the lifestyle and salary that I wanted was only going to be achievable for me years down the road and only via a corporate or entrepreneurial route. And I did both for a while, but for me, neither quite did it, and the number of years it would take and the level of uncertainty was still too high for me. So I did more homework. I read more about careers online. I reached out to talk to actual people pursuing those careers. We talked about salary, job expectations, life outside of work, etc. And I finally found one that checked all the criteria for me. So now we had a goal, we had a plan, and now it's time to execute it. Number 3, we made sacrifices. My husband and I had to make the decision to forego whatever salary we were making at that time to go back to school. So yet again, we were broke, but not as broke as we were in the past, since this time we had some money saved up from before, and we also got some financial support from the school in terms of scholarships, extra money teaching classes, and so on. But still, at this point, we were getting older, and it sucked to be back in school while our friends were steadily climbing in their careers, but we knew it was going to be worth it on the other side. And even though I said we knew we wanted a lifestyle where money and work weren't the end-all and be-all of what consumed our every waking moment, I'm not going to lie. Going back to school was a huge sacrifice, and we busted our butts. There were nights with no sleep and plenty of tears. But again, we knew it wasn't going to be forever, and we knew it was a calculated risk, but the returns were going to be high. And by the end of our time in school, we could see the light, and our gamble paid off. This time we had picked the right degrees and the right career paths for each of us, and I can't even begin to tell you the weight that was off of our chest when we each got our job offers before we even graduated, and we got a sense of this life that we had dreamt of years ago finally becoming a reality. Now, number 4, now that we've made it happen, we made ourselves indispensable at work. Fast forward to today, we are still considered young in our careers. And the news is a really hard thing to watch nowadays, right? The thought of hundreds and thousands of well-educated management-level employees facing mass layoffs is just really scary. I'm not saying it's not as scary when it's frontline level or minimum wage employees getting laid off. By no means is their position less important in the company or to society, or is their unemployment not as impactful or newsworthy. Getting laid off sucks, period. But I'd argue that when it comes to management level or highly skilled employees, then either you've been with a company for a while and have worked your way up the ranks, or you have received special training or education that is considered sought after. And I would guess that part of why you put in the time and effort to get that training or to grow with the company is to have a bit of job protection. So to be laid off when you've either spent the time working to develop those company or job related specific skills, it can be devastating. Chances are you are also further along in your career and life in general. Having made money in the past, especially those who are making over six figures and now finding yourself laid off, you probably have a mortgage, car payments, medical bills, daycare, things that you've gotten comfortable with in your life that you now have that added level of stress in terms of trying to decide whether to maintain this lifestyle that you and your family have grown so comfortable with, or what do you have to give up to make ends meet. And these are just hard decisions to make. If you or someone in your family is affected, again, please just keep your chin up. I mean, reading about all of these layups did make me think, what if it happened to me, to us, tomorrow? Would we be able to go back and live a simpler life? I would hope that we can, because in full transparency, we've come a long way from where we were financially to where we are now, and it would suck to lose it all. And as much as I hope our jobs will remain unaffected, there's really no telling, right? And since my husband and I are both fairly specialized, the best thing we can do right now is just to double down at work. So while others are quietly quitting, which will eventually end up with them being quietly fired, we are doubling down by taking on additional projects, by pursuing and introducing new opportunities for our organizations, and honestly just making our presence felt. And so when and if it comes time for the culling to happen, our hope is that the hole that we leave behind would be harder to fill. Now, we weren't just taking on any willy-nilly projects either and never saying no, because I do believe that you can do a lot of extra things for your company, a lot of what we would call discretionary organizational citizenship behaviors, or OCB, that at the end of the day don't matter when it comes time for the culling. So we're really strategic in terms of the additional work we take on in terms of its projected value, impact, and visibility. So we're doing what we can, and we're not taking any chances, since at the end of the day, nothing is guaranteed, which means every day is a chance to make yourself indispensable. Every day is a chance to upskill and learn something new. And last but not least, 5, we remind ourselves of our blessings each and every day, and we choose to be grateful. This last point is probably the most important and something I'm still learning, because it's easy to always want more. It's easy to sit back and start comparing my career to someone else's, my salary, my purse collection, and feel like what I have isn't good enough, that I want more and that I actually need more. But if you have that attitude, then you will never be able to enjoy what you already have. Now, there are days when I'm managing our financial accounts and I feel like, man, we just don't have enough money. And isn't that absolutely ridiculous, to be making more than we've ever had before and still feel like it's not enough? And when thoughts like that creep in, it's so important to just humble yourself and look back at your journey and see how far you've come. To know that we've made do with a lot less in the past, and everything now is really just icing on the cake. So every day, we make it a habit to focus on what we have to be grateful for instead of what we don't have, and lose sight of all the blessings that we've accumulated over the years. So this wasn't a how to get rich quick video or the best side hustles you can start to start making 6 figures by tomorrow. The route we take to quadrupling our salary was long and steady, and it was based on building skills and qualifications that others found valuable. And even though the route was long and steady, the payout wasn't. It wasn't like a steady trajectory upwards in salary, you know? We were literally stuck at making minimum wage for years until it happened, until we landed our dream jobs. So even though it felt like it happened overnight, you know, waking up one day to a take-home salary for 2 weeks worth of work that would have taken months in the past, it was a long and steady journey to get here. And being in the top 5 percentile of US household income sounds great, right? But do you know how many people in this bracket continue to live paycheck to paycheck? And I know me. I know that if I'm not careful, I could easily be someone that falls into this category, especially with my weakness for shopping and luxury designer items. What's funny is that in my personal life, there's been this U-shaped relationship with luxury shopping. When I was broke, I was buying designer bags that I realistically couldn't afford, as in making minimum wage, getting into credit card debt, just to have a designer bag to treat myself when I've had a rough day at work. That was at the very beginning, right out of college, when I didn't have a goal and when I didn't have a plan. And then after that, Once I had that goal, once I looked at what the plan was, I actually went a very long time without shopping for a single luxury item. I went years not even looking, not even thinking about them. And I was completely happy with the maybe 5 designer bags I had in my collection at that time, until we actually reached our financial goals. And even then, this comfort level is very deceptive. We've fallen into a lot of lifestyle traps since reaching our goals, to be honest, and we're still learning how to live within our means. At the end of the day, if you are feeling stuck and unhappy with where you are financially, I hope you found these 5 tips helpful. Set a realistic goal for what you want to achieve financially. Do your due diligence to see what path could realistically lead you to those goals. There are plenty of careers that all offer opportunities of earning 6 figures and up. Research them, see what those career paths look like and what skills you need, and then make a decision for what path is best for you. Then do the work, make the sacrifices, and when you get there, when you do reach your goal or your dream job, whatever it is, realize that it can be taken away at any moment. So make yourself indispensable. Focus on upskilling and being better than you were the day before. And last, don't ever forget the journey so you can always be thankful when you look back to see how far you've come. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.